Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into a fascinating story about power, politics, and the internet. We're going to unpack how and why social media posts in India can now be forced to vanish in the blink of an eye. We're talking just 3 hours. So let's get right into how this incredible shift happened. So, have you ever seen this happen? A video, maybe a controversial post, is absolutely everywhere 1 minute, and then poof, it's just gone the next. So what changed? I mean, how did the Indian government get the power to make online content disappear so incredibly fast? Well, it all started, believe it or not, with a protest. To really get to the bottom of today's 3-hour rule, we've got to jump in the time machine and go back to a really critical moment in February 2021. This was right at the height of the massive farmer protests that had basically taken over the national conversation. This was the flashpoint. And boy, did things escalate fast. On February 2nd, you have Rihanna tweeting about the protests, which immediately puts a global spotlight on them. The very next day, Greta Thunberg also tweets her support. But, and this is the key part, she makes a huge mistake. She accidentally shares a link to a private document, a so-called toolkit. So, what in the world is a toolkit? Well, you can think of it like a digital playbook for an online campaign. It tells you exactly which hashtags to use, who to target, what to say, the whole shebang. And for Indian intelligence agencies, this specific toolkit set off all kinds of red flags. And here's why alarm bells just started ringing all over Delhi. The toolkit showed a direct link to something called the Poetic Justice Foundation, an organization that has ties to the Khalistani separatist movement. It also mentioned a guy named Peter Frederick, somebody who'd been on the radar of Indian intelligence for years. So to the government, this didn't look like a simple protest anymore. It looks like a coordinated, maybe even foreign-influenced campaign. Okay, so the government believes it has evidence of this coordinated campaign. What's the next move? They go straight to the social media giants, especially Twitter. And this is what set the stage for a massive showdown.
And what happened next was a complete and total deadlock. The Indian government demanded, take down over 1,100 of these accounts right now. And Twitter's response? Essentially, no, we won't. They argued that this was all protected speech under their policies, which, of course, are based on U.S. law.
This right here was the light bulb moment for the government. They realized that in this new digital battlefield, their own laws didn't really matter. The final call on what could stay up in India was being made in an office in California, based on a totally different set of rules. They knew right then and there they had to change the entire game. So faced with this brick wall, the government didn't just complain. It acted. It went and wrote a whole new playbook designed to take back control over its digital borders. And this became known as the Information Technology Rules of 2021. This was a really clever three-pronged strategy to flip the power dynamic. First, they said you have to put somebody in India who is legally on the hook, someone we can actually hold responsible, maybe even arrest. Second, we're creating an Indian committee that gets the final say on content, not your teams in the US. And third, they spread out the power, giving local authorities like police chiefs the ability to demand takedowns directly. No more waiting for New Delhi to act. Now, all of those changes were huge, but the masterstroke, the one move that really cemented the government's control, it came a little bit later. And it was such a simple change to just one number, but it completely changed everything. See, under the old rules, these platforms had 36 hours to comply with a government takedown request. I mean, in the viral world of the internet, 36 hours is an absolute eternity. A post could reach millions and millions of people before it ever came down. And then, that 36-hour window was just obliterated. It was slashed by 90%, all the way down to just 3 hours. And with that one change, the entire power dynamic was rewritten forever. This chart really says it all, doesn't it? That move, from 36 hours to 3, is the checkmate in this whole strategic game. But why? Why is that so powerful? Well, because when you're getting thousands of takedown requests, it is physically impossible for a team of humans to review, analyze, and debate every single one in less than 3 hours. It just can't be done. So what this does is it forces a brand new reality. With only 3 hours on the clock, these companies have to rely on automated systems. They basically have to default to saying yes to government requests to avoid legal trouble. There's just no time to argue. And remember, there's an executive in India who's personally on the hook, facing jail time. The risk of saying no is just way too high.
So, the strategy clearly worked. The government now has effective control over its digital space, and they frame it as a crucial tool for national security. But this new immense power brings with it a really critical and very complex question. And that question all revolves around this concept of weaponization. When you build a powerful tool to fight one specific threat, what stops it from being used for other things? What happens when these rules, designed to stop foreign plots, are applied at a really local level? And this is where you get the classic double-edged sword. The exact same power that can take down a post linked to a separatist group could also be used by, say, a local official to instantly silence a citizen who's just complaining online about a broken road, long before that complaint ever gets a chance to go viral. And that right there is the fundamental question at the heart of this whole thing. India has successfully rewritten the rulebook to take control of its digital territory. The challenge now, though, is navigating that incredibly fine line between using this new power for national security and the risk of it being used to chill the legitimate speech of its own people. And that's a debate that is really only just beginning.